Now, the rest of the story.
I just pulled the monitor out of the 4640, the ag leader monitor, for those of you that are wondering. This is the switch box for running the corn planter and also the sprayer. Granted, I have the 3-section shutoff on that, so which isn't really important. Put the sprayer away, which I need this to go through and do everything on that. Corn planter speaks for itself. With this, we don't need the switch box in the combine, and that's what I'm currently working on. This isn't going to take me long at all. I just wanted you guys to see what we got to do to switch it between both machines. And for the combine, we did go through and make, well, we didn't make it as much. It's kind of like a 50-50 thing. We made the back plate that'll mount right here, and then this piece that is welded to the plate that's sticking up here, that actually came out of the combine. That came with it, and we farmer engineered it to make it work. So that way this gets this monitor up out of your face, because using this setup, you can't get it up out of your face, or it's only like a foot or so from your forehead, and kind of annoying when you gotta lean back in the cab to be able to see what the yield monitor says. Now, a good argument we can talk about quick about yield monitors, because my buddy, he's been on the fence about getting a yield monitor. Granted, he's running an older machine, 6620, and as far as I know, they're waiting on parts, but I guess they're coming. But the reason that you can argue about getting or not really caring what you're doing as far as a yield monitor goes is it allows you to manage your operation more efficiently. Now, what could I possibly mean by that? Okay, so when it comes to harvest, it doesn't really... It's cold out, by the way. It's coats and everything. When you're harvesting, there's not a heck of a whole lot you're going to be able to do to increase yield when it comes to harvesting. What it really does, it lets you know or see what the yield is doing across the field. It allows you to see the variability across the farm. And for my friend in general, because he basically covers all of his ground close to home with bed pack, because he's got cattle and he feeds them year round, or he generally feeds them year round. What it does, and what I've told him, is if you have a yield monitor in a situation like him where he's spreading mirror across everything regardless, instead of blanket spreading the same rate across everything, what you'll find yourself doing is the parts of the field that the yield dropped off, or they're lighter parts of the field, you'll end up dropping a gear or two, spreading it a little bit heavier, and then maybe on the awesome big high yielding parts of the field, you're still going to spread them, but you can utilize a variable application approach to hopefully bring all of your acres up and ultimately get a better field average, because you're addressing the parts of the field that are lacking. So it's, I mean, we've gotten that conversation already about, you know, it's just that much more expense. You're going to harvest it. It's going to be what it's going to be. It's not like you're not going to harvest it if it isn't yielding. And I agree. I mean, I was against doing the yield monitor just because dollar signs. But when it comes right down to it, it opens up more options to actually perform better across all of your acres, because once we do that planter, we're actually going to be taking our previous year's harvest data and incorporating that into a planting map, and I'll be able to variable plant the population across our fields depending on previous year's yields. So if it's yielding, 20-30 bushels better than a different part of the field, you can actually drop the population down so those plants aren't competing for nutrients or water as much on those tough areas, and on the better yielding areas where it's got better ability of holding water, better ability of storing those nutrients, and putting more plants there. And it allows your crop to be utilized better across the whole field. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in. I'll let you guys see how it fits up in the cab, and then I got all my parts here, all the disc bind parts. It took me 3 tries, but I finally got everything I need to get the 735 back together. It's cold and crummy out. It's like 61 degrees out, and as I usually tell everybody, I'd rather be a little warm than a little cold, hence why I'm wearing a sweatshirt when it's like 65 degrees out. And they're calling for 80s and sunshine for the next couple days. The ground is wet, but we didn't get near the 3 inches and then the 2 inches of rain they're calling for. We ultimately got 9/10, so not even a full inch in the last 2 days. And then the rain that we were supposed to be getting today should be falling in about 30 minutes, and it was only supposed to be just like a 30-minute chance of rain. So what I'm looking at, as with most of my cuttings down at the valley, it seems like it kind of falls in my lap. And now, even though the ground is damp, it's wet, it's muddy to a small degree, if we go through, we windrow it to get that ground exposed, and then after the next day after we cut it, I'll go down and I'll tet it out, and it'll help that ground and the material that's there dry out a little bit better, and ideally get it made like Friday, Saturday, and we'll for the most part be done with making hay. Because I would rather, at this point in time, I would much rather be focused on making hay. Making hay right now and getting it done and over with. So that way, once we get to about the 1st of October, because the crops are really turning, first, maybe the first part of the 2nd week of October, we can focus on soybeans and then corn. And we really do have every intention of burning right through the crops this year, because we have the ability to, with the bigger combine, without any of or as much of the crop damage as we had the last couple of years with the wind that we had through those storms. So with the crop is all standing up, we can burn right through it with a bigger machine that's going to allow us to grind through it that much better. And a 30-foot bean head versus a 20-foot bean head on a much bigger combine. Hopefully we can get beans done in about the span of a week. And then corn, for the most part, we'll be sending a bunch of it down the road. That's probably going to be our biggest bottleneck. But at least for the stuff that is being put in the bins here, we'll be able to fill the bins hopefully in record time, which about 2 days. Because the limit there is the 76 and the grain wagon when I'm coming up from my place. As far as using the semi, especially after putting that cattle crossing in, that's actually not a bad idea, but we're not set up, and we've actually looked at how we laid these bins out, not really thinking about being able to fill them with a semi as they currently sit. And it'd be a little bit of a challenge between getting pulled up in there for where the auger is going to have to sit. The truck not getting stuck or anything. We're good. As inefficient as it seems, the 76 and the grain wagon, I can actually burn up to Rockville fairly quick. And once I get up to the auger, because we got that new grain auger, I basically wind the 40-20 up, and let her rip, and I can get a wagon unloaded in short order. Because the bin, we got the spreaders in them that can actually handle basically just opening it up and letting it run. You can't overflow those spreaders very easily. And that's that. I know looking into the doorway doesn't help. I didn't bring my Nebo light, but oh, well, I guess that helps. I mean, LED dome lights for the win, guys. And this is where we ended up. I mean, the monitor is, to be honest, you can't get much better for placement than that. I mean, as far as our preferences, because it's literally as high up as I can really get it. I can't hardly get my finger up above it between the ceiling and the monitor. The only downside I had was on the back end, there is a slide that's actually supposed to have a spacer and then a washer, a spring washer, or maybe my mechanical gurus out there can reference what it is, but it doesn't work because I put them in and then it keeps you from being able to tighten this up too much so you can still pivot the monitor, you know, front to back. Well, it's just going to be a job where if it's not where we want it, it's going to be a 10 mil, socket, wrench, whatever your preferences are, and slide it down. The reason I put it all the way up like that, because it's pointing straight up, because honestly, you tilt it down very much at all and it just seems like it's almost looking at the floor, and I'm not really a big fan of that. I don't know if I got all the wiring right. Probably didn't like that. I'm not getting any power on lights. Oh, we got power. Give it a second here. Well, that's always a relief. Seems I'm the one that did the wiring. I had to go through and connect a bunch of the power cables and everything again, and I wasn't sure that I had everything connected that I was supposed to. A couple calls to Andrew and our agronomist, and we're good. As you can see, the spiders are out in abundance because we already got a spider web over that camera. So, and I can do that right now. It's reading the steady steer for the 4640 because we literally went right from the 46 to this, and go to there. Steer command Z2 steady steer, and then when you're in the combine like this, you'll switch to manual guidance, because I was actually asked by our agronomist if we wanted to put the steer controller in here. I'd rather not, for the time being. I mean, we wouldn't use it for corn, but for soybeans, we got a couple fields that are, what do we got? 1, 2, 3, 2. 2 fields that it would probably work. No, I'm sorry, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we got about 4 fields that we could really benefit from the combine, you know, driving in any particular direction and consistently. But for the first year, I think we're fine. What a lot of guys like to do when they're cutting beans is they actually like to run at an angle. I'm not sure of the degree, but as opposed to driving straight up and down the rows like we will be on a fair amount of our acres, because it feeds into the head so much better. Now our bean head is full fingered, so that should help with feeding in consistently, but I've never run one before. We just had the aftermarket plastic nubs that we mounted in that older 20-foot head to try to help feed in, and it helped, but we're hoping that the actual fingers designed for pulling the soybeans into the head will help. Plus the fact that it is a adjustable fore and aft on the reel. So looking forward to that. And I don't know anybody else's preferences when it comes to having monitors mounted, but that's really what I was going for when I was trying to mount these. I mean, this is already supposed to be here, but we got just a steady line from the bottom monitor all the way up. So you got your yield up here, you got your combine settings back there, you got your backwards cameras and your grain tank camera, and then your combine settings, which I think last year we actually ran it right there as opposed to up through here very often. I mean, a little bit. The reason we ran it here is because then we could have all of our different settings. I mean, the cylinder and this fan speed and our back end, our cleaning area for set the way we wanted it. There is a harvest monitor built into this, but really didn't see much point in calibrating it when we're actually running the ag leader monitor with the actual harvest monitor on it. So that looks pretty nice, and I'll actually go ahead and say that almost could stand to come down just the slightest amount, but you know what, we're going to leave it up all the way, and that'll be one of those things that if we feel like we need to adjust it, our startup day, which startup days are usually never that productive just because you're tweaking everything of how you want it. This isn't what we had last year, so this is a big relief, seeing that we were able to get this monitor in where it's actually designed to be. I mean, this mount is built right into the combine, and the only thing that I might have to do is displaybracket.com has all sorts of cool different stuff, and one of the tools that they have on it is, you see this? I can squeeze that, and then I can move the monitor wherever, and there's a tool on displaybracket.com where you can actually mount it here, where it actually keeps pressure on it so your monitor doesn't work its way around or more or less migrate down. I don't know if there's much you can do for that, for side to side, but I don't honestly think that's going to do too much. A little bit of wiggle really isn't going to hurt, because as you're going across the field, I mean, it really shouldn't bounce too much as opposed to what we used to have. But I myself like it's streamlined. You know, you can look, check everything and go, as opposed to, I mean, there was a small desire when we were talking about mounting these, like to put one like back here, which right here next to the armrest probably wouldn't have been so bad. I could have moved this one down, and it would have freed up more like out through here, because right about where the gator is where the right side of the heads are going to be, and that was really important with not blocking that view out that way. But overall, I think everything we've done to this combine so far, I think we're going to be happy. I got to go through and hit it with the air hose yet. No rodent tracks of any kind. All I got to do is the dirt and dust, and we did smash one of the bait blocks in here when we stepped on it, but take the air hose to the cab, armor all it, and then wash the windows. I mean, everything will get armor alled at least once before harvest, and then after that it's pretty much just blow it out with the air hose if it gets filled up too much with debris and everything, and then you wash the windows. So I hope you guys appreciate or like as much as I do the combine updates. I mean, I didn't bother changing out the radio, because for how much will be in it, just the Bluetooth speaker will work just fine. I didn't have a positive experience trying to get this to work, because the wire that ran from my phone to this was picking up static, and more times than not we don't really always run the radio anyway. So all right, I need to get ready for cutting hay potentially tomorrow, so I'll talk to you guys later.